Welcome to the Own Your Ship podcast, a program designed to share practical ways you can own your mess in your relationship today. I'm your host, Mel Walker. Let's dive in. Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Own Your Ship podcast. I'm finally getting to sit down with the man that's been hitting me with his book for the last God knows how long. Troy, I want you to briefly introduce yourself to my audience and let them know who you are, what you're about, so we can get this thing started.
Yeah, and thank you. I hope you have healed from me hitting you with the book
Awesome.
so many times. but for everybody watching right now, I'm Troy Spry. I'm a certified dating and relationship coach. I'm a speaker and I'm an author of the book Teach Me How to Love While What You Don't Know Will Hurt You. And I always say my mission is very simple: better people, better mates, better relationships, and better communities. Because that's what I believe in. And the way I do that is I help people get out of their own way in life and in love. So that's what I do. That's why I do it, and I'm looking forward to the conversation today.
Yes. I'm looking forward to this conversation too, because it is a topic that we hear in the community all the time. Pressure. Oh,
Hmm.
she pressuring me to get married. She pressuring me to have kids. Everything is pressure. And guys have their own interpretation of what pressure is. And ladies, we know we have our own as well.
Hmm.
So we need to get to some kind of common ground today so we can figure out what is this pressure? Who defines pressure? And is it really pressure, or is it you just not wanting to,
Mm.
compromise? Let's let's
Yeah.
let's let's talk about it. So talk to me, Troy. What do you think about pressure? Because I know you've heard about it. So
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. So pressure is interesting, right? It tends to be in like certain areas of life that men see and feel pressure within relationship, right? What you tend to hear it in is like whether it's money or it's job situation or it's child rearing or it's maybe sometimes it's in the area of sex, right? There's so many areas that men feel like they're pressured in, and I think honestly, sometimes you have to decide. You have to decipher between is it really pressure or is it a lack of accountability,
ooh,
right? Or so you have to really start to peel the layers back and be honest with yourself as a man, but also the woman has to be honest in is he in the season to receive or to do the things that you're asking of him. You see what I mean? So there's so much to it. So that's kind of my initial thoughts around pressure.
well, it's fun you say lack of accountability, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use one of my personal examples for this one. Years ago, many years before I met my husband,
Mm-hmm.
before I met you, babe, many years ago, I was in a relationship with someone, and we were together for about 3, 4 years, and the conversation about marriage would constantly come up. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was trying to set my intentions. Now, granted, I do believe that I may have overdid it. And ladies, we got to be honest and we got to own our mess. Sometimes we overdo it.
Mm-hmm.
But my mindset back then was I need him to know where I'm at because I'm not trying to waste no time.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas he's like, oh, she keep talking about it. And because you're talking about it, that's pressure. I feel
Mm-hmm.
pressured. It's like you're forcing me to get married. But we've been together 3, 4 years. In my head, it's like, if you wanted to marry me, we would have been either down the aisle or you'd have gave me a ring already. You
Mm-hmm.
know, fast forward, we relationship didn't work out. We moved on, and I got married, moved on, everything. He met someone, and within a few months, they were engaged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm like, where's that same energy? Where's that pressure? My thing is, I would just love for men to own it. If you're not interested in getting married, just say you're not interested, because I'm going to keep coming at you. If I don't see you making moves,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to keep coming at you and you're going to say, oh, you're pressuring me. No, just be honest. Just say,
Yeah.
I'm not ready for marriage, or I don't want to be married. I'm not with that marriage thing right now. It's not
Mm-hmm.
on my radar. Instead of continuously leading us on, because men look at it like they're the only ones pressured.
Mm-hmm.
We pressured too.
Yes.
Once we get into a relationship with a dude, the mindset is I got to see what she could do for me before I give her a ring.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I got to sample this. I got to, let's see what the sex is like. Can she cook? Can
Mm-hmm.
she
Mm-hmm.
clean? She can take care of my kids. I ain't gonna give her no ring if. So I'm like, why is it that pressure only applies to dudes, but when
Mm-hmm.
it's us, what we don't get to talk about pressure?
No, look, you make some great points, right? I think what we have to decide is, is it really pressure or is it misaligned intentions as well, Do we have
Mm.
misaligned intentions? And also the other piece of this is, if I'm feeling pressured, what it really is the woman doing is seeking security.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, that's what it is. It's her really seeking stability and security. And if she can't see that clearly, then now she will begin to panic a little bit and start applying, quote unquote, said pressure,
Sure.
right? Because she doesn't see the clear path forward. And so I tell a lot of men this, like, look, you can't lead her on, because many of men have led a woman on for months and years and years and years and not ever gotten her to the place of security and stability, which to her looks like marriage, right, and commitment. And so what I found is, a lot of times men will use the word pressure as a cop out, right? It's a cop out to then be like, you know what, she's pressuring me, so I'm not going to give her what she wants. Where what you're saying is very important. You're just doing check-ins to see if
Yeah.
you're still aligned, to see if you still
Yeah.
have the same intentions, the same goals, right? And so there's nothing wrong with that. I encourage women to do that, is to check in and be consistent, and to help them understand, like, look, this is what my intentions are. Here are what my values are. Are we aligned at this current season? Because the other
Exactly.
piece of this story is seasons. See, even what you talked about with the young man that you were with, maybe there was a season that he was in that
Yeah.
he really wasn't ready to marry
Yeah.
you. Okay. But then he got with her, and she just caught him in the right season.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, it made the choice easier for him, because in that season, he was looking for a wife. Before, he had a
Exactly.
girlfriend that he
Mm-hmm.
was maybe going to make a wife. Now he got a girlfriend and he's looking for a wife. So it can change the whole dynamic. So sometimes, unfortunately, for a lot of ladies, sometimes you end up being the person that got the short end of the stick. And then you
Yeah.
watch something like that happen. You're like, well, what happened? Where's that same energy? And a lot of times it's the season that he was in.
It comes back to expectations. You were talking
Mm-hmm.
about misaligned intentions. It
Mm-hmm.
comes back to expectations as well.
Yep.
Um, I believe that we need to be very transparent about what it is that we want up front.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes there are some women who are straight up front about what they want. And some men, I have to say some, ugh,
Mm-hmm.
some men, they know that this is not what they're looking for, or they're not ready, or they're not sure, but they don't say that. Instead, they're like, we'll see how it goes. We don't want to put a label on it. Let's
Mm-hmm.
go with the flow. And honestly, all those are red flags.
Yes.
I would rather you say straight up, this is not what it is. But a lot of men won't say that because of what they want from the
Mm-hmm.
woman, whether
Absolutely.
it's that and I say this loosely, whether it's financial support, physical support, emotional support. Some men are just not willing to go without, and they just want to live life their way,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to put it all on the brothers, because some of us women are the same way as well.
Oh yeah.
We put ourselves in predicaments, and then we wonder why. Oh, why didn't he propose? I can use myself again with that same young man. He told me in the beginning, you know what, I do think I could get married down the line, but I'm not sure, I'm not ready right
Mm-hmm.
now. That should have been the key for me to determine whether or not I was going to stick with him to figure out whether or not he wanted to marry me, or I was
Mm-hmm.
going to say, nah, this is not for me because I know what I want and you're not there yet. We
Absolutely.
women have to be honest with ourselves about what it is that we want, and we stick to it. We sometimes let that cute face and that full beard and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff mesmerize us into, making decisions that we would not have normally made, you
Yeah.
know? And I looked at, there was an article recently about, what's that basketball player's name? Cam Newton.
Uh-huh.
Newton, and they were talking about his relationship with the mother of his kids and how
Mm-hmm.
he has 4 kids with her, and he never married her, and he was just like, he wasn't in that place. He kind of felt like he was being pressured. But my
Mm-hmm.
thing is, if you gonna feel pressured, why would you have 4 kids with someone who's pressuring you?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
I totally agree. It's like one of those things where it doesn't align. Something ain't adding up, right? The math ain't mathing.
Nah,
So
nah, man.
you willing to have all these kids, because that's still a lifetime commitment as well. It's
Exactly.
actually more of a commitment than the
Exactly.
marriage. Actually, is you can't get out of them kids. You can get out of that. You can get out of that marriage, right? And
Exactly.
so you see these situations where I think a lot of it's based in fear, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, a lot of it's very fear based. It's a lot of times it's, I don't want to get married. I want to go with the flow because I want to leave my option open in case things don't work out the way I want them to work out. And I
Yeah.
always tell people this, like, You can't love someone into wanting to marry you,
Right, right,
right?
right.
You can't change their mind if their intention isn't aligned in the beginning, that they actually value marriage. Then you're going to be fighting an uphill battle continuously, because now you're trying to convince them that they want to be married. So
Yeah,
my thing is, if you want someone that wants to be married, make sure you find someone that says they want to be married. You don't have to. Here's what happens though: a lot of women won't make those things clear simply because they are afraid of running the guy off. So it's two extremes.
yes,
Either I'm going to run him off, or I can make him change his mind, right? And so a lot of the times the pressure comes into play on herself, because she's like, oh, I'm not getting the result I want. Or on him, it's like, I told her I didn't really know about this, and now she at my neck about it. You see what I mean? So that's where those misaligned intentions come into play, and it just causes issues long term.
yeah, a whole lot of issues. And
Mm-hmm.
to piggyback off of what you just said, I think it's so unfair when both men and women put themselves in relationships where they already know up front what the situation is. They
Mm-hmm.
know that they're not going to get what they want, but they think they can change them.
Mm-hmm.
That is an internal issue that as individuals we got to fix, because why
Mm-hmm.
do we feel like we have the power and the control to change someone? We can't change anyone, and it might look like someone is changing. It's not that we're changing them, it's that they decided they wanted to change.
Yes.
So we in turn are putting unnecessary pressure on ourselves
Mm-hmm.
when we're not getting the results that we want from relationships that weren't meant to be to begin with.
You said a word right there.
Woo!
They got to change themselves. I mean, that's the word. And
Yep.
I think we do overestimate our own powers.
Yes, we do.
We think I can love this person into submission. I can love them into changing. If I just support them enough, if I just speak life into them, all those things may help. But if they don't believe any of it, then it
It means
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
exactly. It's unfortunate though, because a lot of people, and let me say men,
Mm-hmm.
because I see it more with men. Men tend to become very calloused when they get into relationships where they feel pressured,
Mm-hmm.
or they feel like they're, being forced into doing something they don't want to do, and the relationship ends, or their end of the bargain wasn't held up because of whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
So you find that they now have a calloused heart, and the next person that comes along, they tend to treat them the way they should have treated, or they feel they should have treated the last person because of how that last person treated them. So now
Mm-hmm.
every woman has that blanket treatment, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all women are this and all women are that, and because one person hurt them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
That hurt is real.
I could say the same for women too, because we hear it. Niggas ain't.
Mm-hmm.
We hear it all the time. We hear it all the time. So, what would you suggest? Like, if you were just chilling with your bros,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes up about, hey, my girl is pressuring me to get married, or she pressuring me because she want to have kids. What would your advice be to some of these guys who may feel like they're pressured, but they don't really know how to, fix their problems?
Yeah, yeah. I find that a lot of men don't have the language to have the real conversation. Okay, so they receive what she's saying as criticism or as pressure, instead of seeking to understand what those things mean to her. Okay, and a lot of times the woman can't communicate it either. So the question really becomes, why is marriage so important to her?
Yeah.
Why is having a kid so important to her? What is the fear behind the pressure? Because usually that's what it's wrapped in. It's fear, right? And so instead of blaming her, ask her, right? Ask the next question. Dig a little deeper and try to figure out why it means so much to her, and what's making her feel insecure and fearful in this moment. So that's why I try to tell a lot of my bros that, well, just guys in general that I coach. It's like, you always got to ask the next question. you
Yeah.
know Stop just looking at the surface of it, and ask, what is the next question? What's behind it? What's coming up for her when she sees that it's been another year and you haven't proposed, or it's been another year, she's getting a little bit older and you haven't agreed to have kids with her, right? There's so many things that are in it, and we got to stop being so selfish as to think it's all about us, right? I think now, if he's done all that, he understands it, but he can't deliver on what she is needing, and they
Hmm.
can't come to some sort of compromise, then we got big issues.
Yeah. Well, then, A lot of it is because we weren't taught.
Mm-hmm.
Is unfortunately, especially in our community, a lot of us weren't raised in homes where we saw what healthy relationships look like.
Mm-hmm.
And being a product of parents who to this day are still married because nobody wants to pay for the divorce, don't
Mm-hmm.
that's a whole nother
Whole
thing.
nother story.
You know, I've seen firsthand what it looks like to be around unhealthy relationships. So we sometimes pick up those traits from the people who are around us, and we think, oh, this is normal, so we're going to go do the same thing in
Mm-hmm.
relationships to come. So yes, they don't under I don't think a lot of us have the verbiage
Mm-hmm.
to really express how we feel
Mm-hmm.
because we haven't been taught. And I know we don't want to use the excuse of, oh, I wasn't taught this, because we're all adults,
Mm-hmm.
and we have words, we know how to use our words. So if something doesn't sit right, we should be able to communicate that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one big thing I like to talk about, especially with some of my clients. I realize that the root to every issue is communication.
Yes.
So you're feeling
Absolutely.
pressured because you don't know how to communicate how you're feeling. You don't know how to look at things from another perspective. And this goes for men and women,
Mm-hmm.
because some guys are not looking at the perspective that women, we operate from the position of our biological clock. We
Yes.
want to get married and have kids because by the time you hit 34, 35, if you want to become pregnant at that point, your pregnancy is automatically considered a high risk.
Yeah.
They call your pregnancy a geriatric pregnancy. Do you know how insulting that is for somebody to call
Absolutely.
you, oh, geriatric and you 35?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
we're looking at it from the perspective of our time to have kids, our time to enjoy this part is running out. And of course, this is subjective because there's some women who don't want to have kids. There's some
Mm-hmm.
women who prefer to have kids later. But for the majority of women who are interested, these are the things they're looking at.
Yes.
Whereas men, they can have kids all up in their 70s, 80s. They're not thinking about that. They're thinking about, look, I just want to go with the flow right now, see what's good.
Mm-hmm.
Against some men, I keep saying some because I don't want y'all to come for me.
Oh yeah, everybody's gonna always come with the comment. Well, not all, and it
Exactly.
goes both ways. We hear them comments every day online.
And
So
and the people who say that, they're usually the problem. You know what?
yeah,
Let me.
everybody thinks they're the exception and all this other kind of stuff. Trust me, we can get
Yeah.
into that. But
Yeah.
I'm with you though, and I think that's where we got to stop being. You know, as men, I think we have to start to, and I actually encourage women to do this as well. Is we have to seek to understand the other person. And a lot of times we just don't do that. We look at everything from our own selfish vantage point. And this is what marriage will teach you if you have a healthy one,
Oh
that you
yeah.
have to stop and actually look at something from someone else's perspective. The way you see it and what they said versus what you heard might be different. You
Mm-hmm.
see what I mean? And then there's always another layer to it. So it's so
Exactly.
much that goes into like proper communication,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's why I love some of the work you're doing, because you're trying to help people to understand like there's so much more deeper within a healthy marriage than just what's on the surface. And like
Mm-hmm.
just getting into like the whole situation around the biological clock, it also doesn't help that society has kind of pegged women as their value decreases as they get older, right?
Exactly.
And so because society teaches women that, you think they don't want to have kids early, they don't want to find that mate early, because the world's telling them that if they don't, then they're not valuable anymore. And to me, that's not a good thing. I don't agree with that sentiment at all. But at the same time, there is some reality when it comes to the biological piece of it,
Yes.
right?
And that's
So
nothing. There's
yeah,
nothing anyone can do about that part.
no, I mean God created it that way. You know what I
Yep.
mean? You know what I
I
mean?
mean,
So
you can go freeze your eggs, but it takes away from the experience because I don't know any 60, 70-year-old woman who
mhm,
wants to be pregnant at that age. You know,
absolutely.
it's tough. You got to think about raising a child. Nobody, no woman that I know wants
Hmm.
to raise a child in her 70s, 80s.
Hmm.
It's hard to keep up during that part of your life. Most people are thinking about, look, I want to play with the
Yeah, it's time to
grandkids,
go. I'm
to travel
retiring.
the world. I just want to chill out. I don't want no responsibilities right now.
But
So it's
well, here's the
unfortunate.
other thing too. Here's the other side of that though. Here's the other side, right? The other side is on the men's side. What men I think are hearing is, man, am I prepared financially to take care of this family? Am I ready for the pressures of being a father and a husband? Am I ready? Am I prepared to be depended on by everybody in this household? So there's a lot of things that men aren't communicating either. You see what I
But
mean?
why do you think that fear is there? I mean, one point could be that for some men, they
Hmm.
weren't raised with that father figure, so
Yes.
they don't know what to expect.
Hmm.
But what do you really think? What's causing that fear?
Yeah. I think a big part of this is men don't really understand their value outside of money. Okay.
Mm,
And so the end all be all usually is money for men. It's like, do I have enough money to be able to take care of this? Not understanding that there's the emotional component support, there's physical support, there's that security that comes with it. That's that division of labor in the household. There's all these things that you can contribute to a household without it just being about money. Now, money is important. Let's not get it twisted. Money's important because you don't want to be struggling,
yep,
right? Money's
absolutely.
important, but what a lot of men hear, that's the fear. The fear is, here's the ultimate fear: will I be enough?
Mm,
That's the ultimate fear.
mm,
That's the one that no man's gonna tell you though, right?
of
But the
course.
ultimate fear is, am I enough? Will I be enough to this family? Right? Even if I desire marriage, sometimes men will shy away from it because they don't know if they're gonna be enough, right? And so unfortunately, that's where this disconnect comes, right?
Mhm.
So women's value is always like, having a man, having kids, all these things. Men's value usually is production. Can he produce? Can he produce money? Can he produce? Can he make you feel safe? Okay, but there's all these other things in between that no one's teaching each other.
Well, I think that's a universal saying, what you just said. That makes so much sense because when I met my husband, I already had a son from a previous
Hmm.
relationship. And when he met me, everything was fine. And when I told him I had a son, he was
Hmm.
kind of like, "Okay, cool, that's cool, of course." And he fell back for a few days.
Hmm.
And he told me that during that time, he was thinking about the responsibilities. Like, can I
Hmm.
provide for her? It's not just her, it's her and her son. Can I take
Hmm.
care of them? Can I make sure they're good? Can I, So I get that part about being able to provide and protect. But the misconception is that you are going to have all your ducks in a row and everything is going to be perfect before you
Yep.
get married, before you have kids. The reality is that life happens and
Hmm.
things are not going to always be perfect. No matter how much you prepare to have a child, you know, things aren't going to always go smooth. And when I say that, I mean you're going to have bills, things are going to come
Hmm.
up, responsibilities are going to come up. You think, you know I read a lot of Reddit. I've seen people on Reddit talk about, I saw this woman pretty much wanting her husband or significant other to pay for her to be pregnant because she sees it like she's going to be on maternity leave, she's going
Hmm.
to be missing out, she's not going to be making money, so he needs to supply that for her. Now he feels pressured like, wait, hold up, wait,
Hmm.
this is not how I planned it. This is not what I thought it was going to be. Now I feel pressured because I can't give her what she's asking me for. So I think we put a lot of emphasis on that word and that phrase pressure. And
Hmm.
to be honest, for me, it was a very triggering word for a long time. But as you said, I'm learning to understand that what pressure really means is I have something on the inside that I need to tell you, but I don't know how to tell you. So I'm going to call it pressure.
Uh-huh. And
Because if
is it?
I tell you what I want to tell you, it's either gonna run you away or we gonna fight or our marriage is gonna get.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just gonna say it's pressure.
Oh yeah. That's how it goes though. But
Mhm.
here it is. Here it is. Isn't it funny though? Isn't it funny that the partnership is supposed to be the means to relieve the pressure,
Ooh,
right? That's what's supposed to happen.
exactly.
But when we don't see it as true partnership, and we think that the only role as the guy is to protect and to provide, we don't see the value in that partnership piece. Where I don't hold all the pressure on my shoulders, right? There's a household that my partner is going to help me run as well. I don't hold all the pressure. And so I think one thing that women can do as well is help men to see value in the partnership and not just on the production.
Well, you know why that's so difficult? And I'll just be real, ladies, we
Hmm.
gotta own it. We don't create a space for our men to be vulnerable with us
Hmm.
or be consistently vulnerable with us. And if they do become vulnerable with us, we have an argument down the road. And that's why you got that problem. We throw it
Hmm.
back in their face.
Oh yeah.
So we create an uninviting environment for our significant others, and they put up a wall.
Yeah.
So they keep it strictly protect, provide, profess, protect, provide, profess. But it's almost like a ritual. There's no heart behind it. There's nothing,
Hmm.
behind it. So I don't know. What do you think? Why
Hmm.
why is it that it's so difficult, besides the vulnerability piece, why do you think it's so difficult for men to just be open about it?
Yeah, to be honest and vulnerable. It's such a like loaded concept, right? Because the very thing that attracts women to men is that stoicism, right? Our ability to be stoic, because that breeds security, right? It gives all signals of security. Okay, that his assertiveness, his initiative, all those things are very masculine traits. Essentially, a lot of feeling type things aren't perceived as masculine. So the very thing that women tend to want long term, right, is not the thing that attracts them short term.
Ooh,
Okay. And so now you're in this situation as a man where you're like, I have to evolve, but I only know it one way, because in order to get women's attention, I have to be this way. But in order to keep her, now I got to change everything that I've been taught since I was a kid. Okay.
I never viewed it from that perspective before. That's deep. And if
Hmm.
I look at it from a physical perspective, some of us women, we want, when we're dating, we want the guy with the washboard abs and the fancy car and all this stuff. And
Hmm.
then once you get married, it's like, okay, I want the house. I don't care that you about the gym or whatever. I want you to make sure you're taking care of what I need you to
Hmm.
take care of. So now the needs change. And I look at myself, I look at who I was when I was engaged and I look at who I am now, and my
Hmm.
needs are different. And
Yeah.
that's fine. People evolve. But what are we doing and how are we communicating that without bringing in that P word, pressure?
Uh
You
huh.
know, wow, communication
Absolutely.
is at the root of everything.
It is.
Of
It
everything.
totally is. And I think, in terms of like even just going back to vulnerability, vulnerability is scary. Okay,
Oh,
because vulnerability leaves room for judgment. It
mm-hmm,
leaves room for weakness.
mm-hmm,
Okay, vulnerability leaves room for on the positive side. It leaves room for true intimacy, though. Okay,
mm-hmm.
because now I can actually be 100% authentic about who I am and what it is I desire. Right, but the question is, who's teaching women how to receive vulnerability? Okay,
Ooh,
that becomes the real question, because I think men are beginning to want. I think men are wanting to evolve. I just go off of what I'm seeing. Men are wanting to be able to express certain things. Men are wanting to be able to tell you how they feel about things. But who's teaching women to how to effectively receive it? Because sometimes what is vulnerability from us comes off as criticism to y'all,
exact. And vice versa.
and vice versa. You're right. So
Yes,
we start talking about how we feel, and what happens? We get dismissed. It gets
mhm,
deflected. It gets most of the women that I know aren't taking the time to say, hey, I appreciate you sharing that with me. Tell me more about that.
exactly.
Okay, because it comes off as criticism. So now it's like, now she has to defend herself, and now he's like, you know what? It ain't worth it.
I think we're looking out more for our own interests and we're
Hmm.
not taking the time to really look at what it is our partner is trying to tell us.
Hmm.
Um, but then I got to ask you, do you think that with no vulnerability comes no trust?
Mm,
Because how can you really trust someone who you can't express your deepest, darkest thoughts to? You know what I'm
agreed.
saying?
I think there's
Not
like
getting,
levels to it, right?
yeah,
There's like levels to trust. There's
yeah,
like, I trust you to do what you say you're gonna do when you say you're gonna do it. Like there's like this responsible trust, right? But there's
hmm,
this other trust of, I trust my true self with you. I trust my flaws with you. I trust my emotions with you. You see what I mean? So
yeah.
yeah, to get to that next level of trust, I think you do have to have some vulnerability, because now you're sharing. And then here's the question: if I share with you, will you still love me? Okay,
Mm.
will you still see me as a masculine man if I share with you? And I don't want to put all the pressure on women. I don't want people to get that
Oh no.
that take that away. I'm not saying that women have to like help us evolve emotionally. What I am saying is there has to be a safe space to create it for
Yeah.
that to happen. And I think women have to talk to other women on how to receive
Yeah.
what men are saying. You see it on the internet every day. The minute a man starts talking about how he feels about a topic, there's a woman that jumps in the comment. Well, not all women, or well, that goes both ways, or well, we do this because y'all do that. And all men are saying is, will you hear me? Just
But
hear
then
me.
there are some men who will also jump in the comments and say, "Oh, he's a simp."
Of course. And that's the other piece. He's talking about evolution of emotions. and vulnerability, it starts with men relationships. Okay.
Yeah.
I just now got to a point, probably in my last 4 to 5 years of friendship, where I feel like they're deeper level friendships because we talk about things other than sports and music. Okay. Now we talk about emotions, we talk about feelings, we talk about fears, we talk about flaws, we talk about all kind of things. But I never had that space before because I didn't know it existed.
Right.
Yeah, so men have to give men other space to stop dismissing men. Like if your homeboy comes to you and he's hurt about something, you got to stop telling him, "Oh man, get over that. It ain't no big deal."
Oh my gosh. I just don't understand. Well, yes, I do understand why that happens. It
Hmm.
really does stem from our childhoods.
Yes,
We are walking children, if that makes
that's it.
sense. We are just we just have grown up bodies, but we're still our inner child,
Hmm.
you know? And a lot of us are still dealing with trauma. I tell people all the time, I push therapy so hard.
Hmm.
I push it hard because people don't understand that the baggage that you walk around with in your childhood, it just doesn't disappear because you're an adult. It doesn't disappear because you're an adult. It's not like, okay, you're 18, you live on your own now, bags are gone. No.
Hmm.
If anything, those bags can get a little more full because we're not addressing the issue. So now we go
Yes.
into the relationship, and as a man, you go into a relationship with a woman, and your expectation is because your mom cooked and cleaned and did everything for your dad, she gonna do the same thing for you. And if she don't do it, then she's not a wife.
Hmm.
No, 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 bro. That's not how that works. And the same thing with the wife. She could be come from a relationship where she sees her dad probably put hands on her mom, and she feels like, well, that's just what love is, and
Hmm.
she's in a relationship with the dude that's beating on her. Nah, that's not how it's supposed to be.
Agreed.
We have to unpack the things, even though it might not have impact us directly.
Hmm.
We were around that. We were able to see those negative influences, and we need to go and take care of that. There's nothing to
Absolutely.
be ashamed of. And I put this plug real quick. I tell people all the time, with therapy, it's like walking into a DSW. You see a pair of shoes you like, you don't just pick the shoes up and pay for it and leave. You
Hmm.
try it on, you walk around in it, you model a little bit, you stunt, look in the camera, not the camera, I'm sorry, you look in the mirror, see how the shoe fits on you and everything. And if it doesn't fit right, you put it back, you try something else. It's the same thing with therapy. People just think like, oh, I had this one experience with this therapist one time. I ain't never gonna do therapy again.
Hmm.
No, 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 no. That was the pair of shoe that didn't fit right. You put that back on the shelf and you go back and find another pair. Find
Yes.
another therapist because we have too much baggage we're holding on to. And when we are in a place where we can't even communicate our feelings because we don't want to be vulnerable because we're afraid we're going to get judged, then
Hmm.
we're in a problem. How is it that everybody wants to be relationship goals and nobody wants to take the time to really fix the relationship with themselves? That's the first relationship.
Yeah. It's so funny. Like, so think about it. One of the things I always say is you can't communicate to your mate what you don't know about yourself. Okay.
Eh,
And you can't do that because what happens is trauma and triggers tend to show up uh, more in intimate relationships, right?
absolutely.
Because now intimacy causes vulnerability, which has gives people more access to you. Okay. And now those things start to show up and you don't even know why they exist.
Hmm.
You all you know is how to respond. You don't know how to think through why I might be feeling the way in which I feel in this moment. You don't have any coping mechanisms. You don't know how to take a breath and go and process. You don't know any of the things. You just know how to respond.
Well, you are what you attract.
Hmm.
You
I'm
are
telling
what
you.
you attract. So that's definitely there. I want to put that out there. I always encourage that. So Troy, we're gonna wrap this up real
Okay.
quick. I don't want to take up all your time. We're having a
Yeah.
good time, but I want to take all your time. Um, Before we get out of here, what is one thing you'd like to leave, or one form of advice you'd like to leave for men and women about pressure and how to overcome pressure?
So I would say this. Um, think through, is it really pressure or is there some fear and insecurity there? And then once you understand it from that perspective, then ask the questions to uncover what it is that the person really is fearing.
Mhm.
Okay.
And be honest. Be
And be
honest.
honest. You be
Yeah.
honest about what you're feeling and
Yep.
let them be honest about what they're feeling and then come to a compromise.
Yeah.
Okay. But just continuing to bicker back and forth, right, and hold on to it doesn't solve anything.
Not a thing.
Yep. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, the only thing that's gonna run up is your blood pressure. So,
That's it.
you know. But Joy, I really appreciated you, for coming here, sitting with me, talking about this pressure. I really appreciate that.
Mhm.
Now, before we go, I just want you to once again plug all your stuff, tell people where they can find you, tell people where they can get your book, so we can go and, you know, get more people getting slapped with that book.
Oh, I got it on me. I got it on. I should smack the screen now with it. But it's called "Teach Me How to Love While What You Don't Know Will Hurt You." It's on Amazon. You can order it on Amazon. So please go get a copy of the book. If you enjoyed any of this conversation, you got something out of it, go grab a copy of the book. And at the least, go follow me on Instagram at Exclusive5. That's XKLUSIVE5.
Thank you so much, Troy. And guys, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. Get into the comments. Tell me what you think. Tell Troy what you think. Let's have an open dialogue here about pressure. It's something that we've heard from the beginning of time, and I'm sure it's not going to go away. So let's continue the conversation. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in this week. If you haven't already, please subscribe and leave a review for the show. It helps a whole lot. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at MelissaTWalker_ and use the hashtag OYS podcast for more great content.